Hello and welcome in, Mark here, aka the Markster. This is video number 27 in the FreeCAD series. In the last video, we made this honeycomb speaker box, but it really wasn't complete because there was no way to latch down this grill. So today we're going to look at some possibilities for making some latches for that. I'm using FreeCAD version 0.19, revision 19694. This is a pre-release development version. So let me just move this a little bit so we can see a little bit more what's going on here. You see, it just sits flat against there. Now you could just glue it in, but then how do you get it back off? You could maybe find double stick tape that would probably hold it well enough, and then if you needed to get it apart, you might still take it apart. Maybe a Velcro type thing. So those are some options. We might, depending on the wall thickness you're using, make some little holes, put some little screws. So there's some different options as the model is that could be used. But I'm going to try to, the first thing I'm going to do, let's save this as 0.27, which I already did as I was playing around with this earlier. Okay, so now we have a new file name to work on. The first thing I'm going to do is change this radius to something much larger. That's going to speed up the process of working on it. It's going to throw things off a little bit. That's okay. See, the grid is not in the right spot right now, but that's okay. We're not going to worry about that. I'm going to delete this fusion object. And can hide that grill. We don't need to see that. So now we have the box and the bezel. I'm going to hide the box. Let's make the sketch visible. It's the bezel sketch that was used to create the bezel. Alright. Now let's go to Sketcher. Create a sketch on the XZ plane. Now we see that because we didn't center the bezel sketch, we just put it where the honeycomb grid showed up. So we need to move our sketch to that position. So what I'm going to do is close it for the moment. Reopen the bezel sketch. Remember these, we just locked it in place where it was. I'm going to change this to a nice even number like 85. I'm going to give this a name. This is going to be a Y offset. When you name a constraint, you can refer to it from other objects using the expression engine. So this will be X offset. That little bit of movement shouldn't matter because we had plenty of overlap with the original honeycomb grid object. Now we'll close that. And now we can move this sketch to position it where we need it. And that's going to be, let me just put something on in the sketch. Just a little rectangle temporarily. So now we can see the sketch. Alright, so we want to move this sketch up in the Y direction by the amount of that Y offset. And that's in the bezel sketch. Constraints dot Y offset. And in the X direction, that's the equals key, bezel dot constraints dot X offset. Alright, and actually I want to move it up in the Y direction to right here. So that's going to be by the wall thickness. So let's modify this one. Say plus wall thickness times 1 mm. This error is a unit mismatch error. We need to add 1 millimeter to the formula to make that acceptable. And I'll clear this error. So now we see our sketch is positioned where I want it at. Go back into it. Now I want to hide this extruded object. Now I know this is the wall thickness distance. So I'm going to set this with a horizontal constraint. From here to here. To wall thickness. Could also create a link to external geometry to that sketch, and that would do the same thing. Maybe I should do that, but I've done it now, so it doesn't really matter. Now what I want to do is come across this direction by the same amount, wall thickness. Now let me show the bezel again. So see, I'm going to sweep something along this edge, and we're going to extend this bezel inwards by wall thickness, so it'll be twice as thick, the bezel part, in this direction. So that's what's going on here. But in addition to that, I want to come down below here too. Delete this edge. I'm going to make this wall thickness as well. Equals key here. And that needs to be wall thickness. Alright, for this one, yeah, that's good. Now I'm going to add another edge of the line segment horizontal here, and this one will be half of that. Wall thickness divided by 2. Now we come down and add an angle there. So this line, let's make this one wall thickness times 3. And I want this angle here. $160, what does that look like? That way if you print this on a printer, you won't need support because it'll be a shallow enough angle, hopefully. And then I'm going to add an arc. We'll catch that point. We'll catch this point. So what I want this to do is come out far enough to push up against this wall, the wall of the box. And I'll constrain that length. Wall thickness divided by 2, see what that looks like. And this radius, wall thickness divided by 2. And we have 1 degree of freedom, which is the location of that center. So I'm going to put it constrained symmetrically between those. Now let's take a look at the box and see exactly how this lines up. We'll go to wireframe mode, view front on. Nope, it's not reaching the wall far enough. So I need to make some modifications. I want it actually digging into that wall a little bit. So we'll have a spring action here, pushing against the wall. That's going to hold this lid in with friction. So we need to go back into the sketch. Yeah, now we can see what we're doing. Let's get rid of that constraint and this constraint. So this one comes even with this. It will intrude a little bit. I think that can work for us. It's not much, but you don't need much. You're going to have to be kind of forcing this in. And we're going to actually cut a little groove in the box too. So that looks pretty good. I might just constrain these back here. Make them all horizontal with each other. Okay. Now let's go to part. Let's hide the box again. And we'll do our sweep. Let's save this document in case this goes terribly wrong. Let's use the sweep tool. It's going to be sketch 3. Sweep path. I'm going to select these inner edges. And we want this to be a solid and friend it. Let's go to as is mode. So that's kind of what that bezel's going to look like. If we make the box visible, if we can set the box transparency to something like 25. A little more transparency, 75. Alright. Now I'm going to cut the sweep out of the box. And the sweep, the grill, and the bezel will be fused together. That's going to be the lid. Alright. Now let's hide that. And hide these two sketches. So this is the inside of the box. Can you see the little groove? I don't know how well that's going to work, but I think it could work. Maybe with a little bit more tweaking, a little trial and error. But I think this could work. Maybe just this angle. Bring this up not quite as far. Let me check the geometry on this. Yeah, it's good. Of course the box will be good. That's simple enough. Okay, now we need to go back in. And this is probably going to take a while to recalculate. We'll set it back to 5. I'll pause the video and come back after it finishes. And we're back. Well, that took a while. That took about 13 minutes or so. Maybe your PC will be faster than mine. It's a little bit older. It's one of the original Core i7 processors. Now notice this little extra bit here is what part of what was swept, and because I have the refine set to false, that shows up, but I'm going to put it on true, and hopefully it won't take too long to do this. And that's just going to remove these extraneous extra edges in here. I'll pause it again while this is working. And we're back, and that took about 8 minutes or so. So you have to be patient with FreeCAD. Sometimes it takes a while to do things, and it looks like it locked up, but in reality, if you're just patient, it'll come through. And this has a lot of stuff it has to do in this particular case. You see there's a lot of stuff going on. These two arrays have to be fused, and then we have a union and cuts. Just all kinds of multiple operations, and the more items in your arrays, the longer it's going to take. Plus, this grid actually extends beyond what's being shown here. So I could have reduced this size to better match what was actually needed and speeded things up. I don't know how well this latch mechanism is going to work, if at all, but I think it will. You see, you have a smaller part here that's going to be able to go into, it's going to be able to fit into the box to get started. And then hopefully, if it's obviously if you made it of plastic, if it's something else, it won't work. If it's some other manufacturing process. But with plastic, it should be flexible enough to kind of spring inward as it comes down. This part. So as you push it in, you see it has a little bit of room to get started. And now you have to kind of force it in, and hopefully it'll be able to spring in until you get down here where it'll lock into place. But like I said, you might need a little trial and error. Another alternative instead of cutting into this wall, you can make a little ring around the wall, a little lip here, and adjust this accordingly. Maybe just come straight down and across. So that's another option. I would show you the tweaking setting in here, but it takes so long. I'm not gonna do it. Basically, these are pretty symmetrical from this part over to say this part. It's fairly well in the middle, so it's pretty well centered. But with the tweaking, with this tweak X and tweak Y, you could adjust that. So your entire, your grid would stay where it's at, but you could like move this edge closer to this edge, and it would all shift up if you wanted to. If you don't like having just a little partial bit here, you could shift it all over and get it lined up a little more evenly. So that's what that's for. And of course, depending on the geometry of your speaker, you'll need some way of mounting it in there. So I would envision having some extra structure in here to screw the speaker into, or whatever, however you're going to mount it. This should not interfere, but it might, depending on where you put in the speaker. So hopefully not. Of course, this is really not intended as a video on making a speaker box. It's a video about using this Honeycomb Maker macro more than anything else. And these two videos anyway. You might want to use a different radius, different thickness. But it's fairly parametric. For some reason, when I change the radius, the entire object shifts. I'm not sure what's causing that. But aside from that, it works pretty well. So that's it. Gonna be it for today. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for watching as always. Hopefully you're enjoying the series. Hopefully you're learning a few things. And hopefully you're exploring on your own and better than I am at FreeCAD by this point. Because I'm not, like I said, I'm not a great expert. I just know enough to get myself in trouble, really. But I'm learning. Almost every day I learn new things about this software. It's such a big project. There's so many different places in it. I'm going to try to learn that assembler and make some videos on that once I get it figured out. The assembly 4 that I talked about in an earlier video, you go to add-on manager. I was thinking this was the assembler that Real Thunder was working on, but it's not. His is assembly 3. I know he had talked about making it where it could be included in the add-on manager. This is assembly 2, which is an earlier version of the assembler. It works, but assembly 3 is going to be the way to go, I believe. Anyway, it is available bundled in FreeCAD with the app image files. If you download one of the newest app image files from the development section on the website, from the releases section in the downloads area on GitHub, if you get the app image file, you need Linux to be able to run it, but it will have the assembly 3 workbench installed in it. I think there are some dependencies is the problem, and that's hopefully it's something that It's going to get added before too long, and you better install that as a workbench to do some assembly, and we'll talk more about assembly in later videos. I plan to make some videos on that. It's not something honestly I've used before, so go ahead and close this down. Again, thank you for watching and have a great day.